So, we are going to be starting our final unit of science, and this is our space unit. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is why we study space. Well, again, studying space answers the big question about where we come from. Is there life on other planets? Is the Earth all there is? So, there's many questions that have been answered by studying space. And so, throughout history, it's a curiosity to understand the world around us that has driven us to explore not only our planet but beyond our planet. The scientists are always looking for new resources such as minerals and places to live. So in 1969, the first human to step on the moon was Neil Armstrong, followed by Buzz Aldrin. So this was monumental for us on Earth, being able to go to the moon. But we've never been back since. Kind of interesting about that, but maybe we will in the future again. So, what are the contributions of Canada to the study of space? There are numerous contributions, and one of the largest successes of the U.S. space program has been the robotic fixtures that were designed and built in Canada. Canadarm, Canadarm2, and Dextra, which are like finger-like projections off the arm. The Canadarms were used on NASA's space shuttles to help with the construction of the International Space Station. And you can see both of these in this picture, Canadarm and the International Space Station. This is a picture of some of our astronauts. So there are more astronauts in Canada, but these are some prominent ones. Those being so from left to right, we have Marc Garneau, Steve McLean, Julie Payette, Dave Williams, Roberta Bondar, Chris Hadfield, he's from this area, from Milton, Robert Thirsk, and Bjarne Trevassen. So those are some astronauts. A few things about them. Roberta Bondar was the first female astronaut and the first neurologist in space in 1992 on Discovery. She studied zoology at the University of Guelph and neurobiology at the University of Western Ontario and U of T. She also earned a medical degree from McMaster University in Hamilton. Chris Hadfield, he was the first Canadian to operate the Canadarm in orbit. You probably know of him for singing on YouTube and singing with people on Earth when he was in space. He's very much into space education, as he's no longer going to be flying, but he's into educating people about space, being in space. Julie Payette was the first Canadian to travel to the International Space Station. Robert Thirsk, he studies the effects of space conditions on plants and animals. So I'd like you to take some time to look up another Canadian contribution to space and bring that to class with you and share it with us. So traveling in space is very challenging because, of course, it costs a lot of money and lots of preparations need to be done. So there are costs, hazards, and benefits of space exploration. Some hazards are radiation. So most of the Earth's atmosphere and the magnetic field help us protect us from the sun's radiation. Our atmosphere does. It also, we are also protected from radiation by shields on spaceships, spacesuits, or bases. And a mission planner must monitor radiation levels in case they get too high. So we talked about that. We use we can measure radiation with a radiation dosimeter. We talked about that in our electricity unit. So we have to be very mindful of how much radiation that we are coming in contact with. It can cause cancer. Equipment can fail. A spacecraft protects astronauts from harsh conditions in space. and they have backup systems set up for machines and computers in case a system fails. And another one provides oxygen in case the environmental system fails. Computer failure may cause loss of control of the spacecraft, and failure to communicate with mission control may redirect the spacecraft home. There have been tragic accidents that have happened. For example, the first Apollo mission in 1967 did not even get off the ground, and this resulted in the death of all 3 astronauts. The Challenger mission in 1986 blew up at liftoff due to equipment malfunction, with most of the world watching as there was a grade 3 teacher, Kristen McAuliffe, on the flight. So it was widely watched by grade 3s and all students around the world. And we'll take a look at that video later. Sometimes the crew can get sick. They can get sick with flu, head colds, aches and pains. So they have to be in direct contact with NASA doctors through mission control, and several astronauts are doctors themselves. The zero gravity can cause loss of bone and muscle mass. Maybe you've seen astronauts coming off a ship. Most recently, when Chris Hadfield came off, he was crawling out of the ship. He couldn't even walk because of the muscle mass had been reduced so much, made him feel weak. Another issue is space junk, and this is wreckage from artificial objects orbiting the Earth, from human-made satellites that remain in orbit for several hundreds of years, tools or materials accidentally lost by astronauts, and this can wildly interfere with communications of other satellites. So they're trying to reduce the amount of space junk that's out there. It's also very expensive to conduct space research and space exploration. It takes years of designing and testing equipment, spacesuits, and computer software needed to send people into space. For example, Canadarm cost $600 million to design and build. Now, of course, there are benefits to space exploration. For example, Canada's robotic arm technology has resulted in benefits on Earth. The Canadarm2 led to the NeuroArm, which is a robotic device used for brain surgery.